IKIM FM, inspirasi utama anda.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to all our listeners. Welcome to IKIM FM. I am Ilham Zulkiflee Lubes, and thank you for joining us in another episode of Man and Nature, a program where we reflect on the relationship between human life, knowledge, ethics, environment, and the well-being of society. Today, we will be discussing a topic that is becoming more relevant in our daily life: carbon neutral lifestyle. Where are we now? When we hear the term carbon neutral, we may immediately think of government policies, industries, renewable energy, electric vehicles, or international climate commitments. But the question for us today is more personal. What does a carbon neutral lifestyle actually mean for ordinary people, for the ummah? Is it realistic for us? Is it only about technology, or does it also involve culture, values, ethics, moderation, and responsibility? The discussion is closely connected to our broader theme of this season: navigating future challenges in knowledge, ethics, and human well-being. To help us understand this important topic today, we are very pleased to welcome Dr. Adi Ainurzaman Jamaludin from Faculty of Science, Universiti Malaya. Assalamualaikum and welcome, Dr. Adi. How are you today?
Waalaikumsalam. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Dr. Adi, for being with us today. Alhamdulillah. So, Dr. Adi, perhaps we can go to the first question today.
Okay.
Perhaps we can begin with a basic understanding. When we talk about carbon neutral lifestyle, what do we actually mean, and why this concept is very important today?
Okay. Basically, carbon neutrality is about creating a balance. Okay, it's mean reducing our carbon dioxide (CO2) emissions to the lowest possible level as possible, and then with offsetting or sequestrating whatever remains through certified processes. So this carbon neutrality is urgent because stabilizing greenhouse gases concentrations is the most challenging in unfinished tasks. Okay, and then for ensure that we keep our Earth on sustainable path. So it's about the building habitable world to the next generation. So in other words, for answering for the last questions, why this concept is really important today is I can divide it into three. Okay, the first one is about the climate mitigations. The second is about the global security, and the last one about the societal responsibility. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Adi. That is helpful starting point. Because sometimes the term carbon neutral sounds very technical. Just for a note, Malaysians' carbon footprint currently is around 10 tons of carbon dioxide per year per person. So we will discuss more about this. But as you explained, it is closely related to how we live our life daily, right? Mm-hmm. How we consume energy, travel, eat, buy, waste, and make choices every day. So in your view, where are we now, especially in Malaysia? When I mentioned just now, our average carbon footprint is 10 tons of carbon dioxide per year per person. So when it comes to public awareness and actual practice of low carbon or carbon neutral lifestyle, are people aware, or is there still a gap between knowing and doing?
Okay, before I'm answering that question, I want to highlight that the climate neutral lifestyle basically is not a prestige symbol anymore, because that is a survival strategy for the global security. That's the thing that's very important that we need to bear in mind. So for answering that questions, we can see that there is definitely have a progress on that, but the challenges still remain. Okay, Malaysia commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050 reflect the proactive action that have been taken by the governments. So, however, there is a conflict between individuals and the collective interests. Okay, our recent research, which have been done at the university, show that our young generations really have a highly positive perceptions and acceptance on this lifestyle. I mean, carbon neutral lifestyle. So, but they struggle with specific changes like the diet. Okay, they show resistance to mixed feeling. They have a mixed feelings toward the significant lifestyle shift, like adopting the vegetarian diets. So there is a disparity exposure depending on where you went to school or how your family views on the sustainability.
That is a very important point. Many people may already know about climate change, reducing vegetarian diet, but turning awareness into consistent behavior is another challenge. This is when knowledge must be supported by, I think, attitude, habit, and also social encouragement. So, Dr. Adi, what are the biggest contributor to an individual carbon footprint in our daily life? Is it mainly transportation, electricity that we use, or like you mentioned just now, food choices, consumption habits, or waste that we produce?
Okay, basically it is integrated issues. Okay, we cannot just spot only one. That is the main reason. No, there is integrated. So the energy sector is the ultimate challenge because there is such a strong link between consumptions and emissions. And in Malaysia, we are used to low electricity and water tariff, which directly leads to ignorance. So when everything is cheap, so everybody will become ignorance. Okay, and then when we ignore, so it lead to the excessive use. So this include the electricity for the cooling and standby power for appliances, which also known as the vampire loads. Okay, and then the next one followed by the food. Food is another massive factor. So greenhouse gases emission from the animal-based foods actually twice from those plant-based foods. Okay, so livestock alone account roughly about 14.5% of annual anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. And many believe that omnivorous diet is the best for the health, even it is worse for the environment. Why? Because of the culture and health belief, plant-based options in Malaysia are often seen as complicated or limited when dining out. So the next followed by waste, because proper waste segregation at the source we still struggle on it. Okay, and then because despite it is a critical role in reducing methane emission from the landfill. So the three things is about the energy sectors, and then followed by the foods, and then waste management.
Thank you, Dr. Adi. Dear listeners, you are listening to Man and Nature on IKIM FM. Today we are speaking with Dr. Adi Ainurzaman Jamaludin from Faculty of Science, Universiti Malaya, on the topic Carbon Neutral Lifestyle, Where Are We Now? We have just discussed what a carbon neutral lifestyle means and where we stand in terms of awareness and practice. After this, we will explore more regarding the role of education, technology, and daily lifestyle choices in shaping a more sustainable future. Stay with us.
There are no limitations to what you can do. However, you limit yourself when you only give yourself goals connected to the dunya. When our goals are only, I want to make this much money, marry this kind of man, have this many children, we become limited and we really can become depressed if we don't reach that goal. But if we expand our reach, our breadth of thinking, and we say instead, my goal is to grow my spiritual self to work to serve the Muslim Ummah, to be of the people of Jannah, to be someone who's close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if we can raise up that ceiling really, really high, let's just break through it and just look at the sky, then we're not going to be disappointed. Because no matter what, even when we have setbacks, and we will, because we're working for Allah, even this setback is a step forward because we learn from it. When we don't get what we want, we're looking around, oh, what does Allah have for me instead? What is the exciting thing that Allah is giving me instead? We get curious about our life. So I would say to women around the world, expand your horizons. Spiritually, don't limit yourself to only dunya goals. Those dunya goals will be much bigger when we're working for Allah.
عن أبي أمامة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلوا خمسكم وصوموا شهركم وأدوا زكاة أموالكم وأطيعوا إذا أمركم تدخلوا جنة ربكم رواه أحمد.
Abu Umamah reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, offer your 5 obligatory prayers, observe fast during the whole of the month of Ramadan, pay the poor due or zakat out of your wealth, and obey whatever He commands you. Then you will enter the paradise of your Lord. Narrated by Ahmad.
Dear listeners, we are still with Dr. Adi Ainurzaman Jamaludin from Faculty of Science, Universiti Malaya, discussing carbon neutral lifestyle. Where are we now? So next question for you, Dr. Adi, if you are ready, how important is education in shaping a carbon neutral lifestyle? Should sustainability education begins at school, university, workplace, or even within the family and community?
Basically, is when we want to talk about the lifestyle, it must be a continuous cycle. We cannot stop at one stage and then we turn into another stage. No, we need to make sure the process is continuous. Okay, for the higher education institutions, it can play a role in driving transformative change and educating future leaders. So, however, the prior university experience, for example, schools and then the families, will serve as the foundations. So then after this, I'm talking about the young generation, about the youngsters. So after they have a very good foundations at the school as well as influences given by the family, so then the higher education institution can play a role. So they can play a role as a mentor to bridge knowledge gaps, whatever they have not learned by this youngster at the school, at the home. So the university can fill up the gaps. Okay, and then so that's the sustainability can become the intrinsic aspect of the student lifestyle. So educations must move beyond the knowledge. So at the university, at the school, they try to get knowledge, the basic knowledge about the sustainability, and then during the higher education institution, they will learn know-how and then the practical actions. So it's more like the practical one, the behavior. So the knowledge they learned during the school time at the home, so they are going to have a very good foundations about the sustainability lifestyle. And then during the at universities, at the higher education institutions, they will do it. Okay, instead of just knowing, so they can become into the practical actions.
Yes. I think I could agree with you that education is not just about giving information. It must go beyond knowledge towards imparting habit and lifestyle. It is about shaping values, responsibility, and the ability to make wise choices. In this sense, sustainability education should not only remain in science and environmental subjects, I believe, but should also be connected with other disciplines, ethics, economic, faith, culture, and community life. So, Dr. Adi, some people may feel that living sustainably is expensive or inconvenient, like you have mentioned previously. When things are cheap, people tend to take things for granted. So, how could we make a carbon neutral lifestyle practical and inclusive? I mean, not too exclusive and expensive, seen expensive, especially for ordinary household in our country.
Okay, talking is about the lifestyle. Definitely cost is the factor. Okay, so however, I think everybody knows that the government has introduced a lot of initiative like My Hijau or the green tax exemptions to make sustainable product more financially attractive. So on the household level, it's all about the awareness. Okay, when we talks about the awareness, basically it will combine three things about the knowledge, attitudes, and the practice. So I believe that talking about the knowledge, everybody is already know what is sustainability is all about. Okay, but the attitudes and the practice is become a big issues. So at the household level, so maybe we can use digital dashboard to track real-time energy usage. I think everybody nowadays can track how many energy that they use by looking into the digital meter at the home. So just everybody need to aware lah benda tu, that things to look. And then but the most important things, knowledge ataupun or recognize how much energy water used monthly. I think that's very important. Before we need to do before we do any action, we need to do the self audit, because we need to know how much the energy that have been used, how much water that have been used monthly. So from that we can take the actions, what the thing that we should do to reduce the usage to become a more sustainable manner. And then for another example, choosing a low flow sanitary fittings can create the long-term habits that eventually save money. So basically it's not just about cost. Sometimes our action, which is as a free, can contribute to the sustainable lifestyle. And then probably maybe we can have the sustainable food days or discount plant-based meals that make easier for the ordinary household to participate. So that's probably it's become a very good actions by everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Adi. That is a very important reminder. I believe that sustainability should not become a lifestyle only for the privileged, but then we must also make sure that the common cafeteria also could serve salad and like you have mentioned, if it's more vegetarian or a lot more vegetables, as you know, it might be costly to have fresh vegetables, but then we must ensure the accessibility for all. But with regards to that, I think we must consider a just transition towards carbon neutral lifestyle. We must consider affordability, access to all the material and carbon neutral food, for example, public transportation, and the reality of family who are already managing their daily economic expenditure. So from an ethical perspective, as Muslim and for the Ummah, how should we think about this responsibility to be carbon neutral? Is carbon neutral living mainly an individual choice or preference, or it could be relate to our responsibility as Khalifah on this earth? Or should it also involve bigger institutions like government, industry, university, religious institution, the mosque, masjid and community? What do you think about it, Dr. Adi?
Basically, talking about carbon neutral lifestyle is demands a paradigm shift. Okay, even though when we talk about carbon neutrality, we can see something like the scientific topic is too scientific, carbon neutral lifestyle, but I think everybody at all levels need to have a paradigm shift. Okay, while individual must adopt the pro-environmental behavior, institutions must define sustainability in their local context and provide the infrastructure to support those choices. Because, like I mentioned before, this is integrated. This is an integrated problem, and everything is integrated and should be done continuously. Okay, and because this is a shared purpose committed to all countries all around the world, so wherever we go, that is similar. Okay, so what I can say, we need to have a paradigm shift, and everybody need to play their own roles to ensure that the sustainability lifestyle is on a good manner.
I think, Dr. Adi, that balance is crucial, and individual can make better choices.
Yeah.
But then again, it seems like the system must also make these choices easier and more adil. So how to make carbon neutral lifestyle more affordable and more beneficial and not to be seen so exclusive? I think that's the challenge that all of us have to work on it, to ensure that personal moderation to institutional accountability and policy direction are directed towards this carbon neutral lifestyle. You are listening to Man and Nature on IKIM FM, dear listeners, and today's discussion is on carbon neutral lifestyle. Where are we now? Together with Dr. Adi Ainurzaman Jamaludin from Faculty of Science, Universiti Malaya. We have explored the meaning of carbon neutral living, the role of education and the ethical question of shared responsibility. In our final segment after this break, we will look at the future, what needs to be changed and how we can move forward with hope and wisdom. Stay with us, IKIM FM.
Located in the center of Seoul in Itaewon, the Seoul Central Mosque is Korea's first permanent mosque and the only mosque in Seoul. The mosque and Islamic center were erected in 1976 with the help of a generous donation of land from the Korean government and large monetary contributions from Saudi Arabia and other Islamic countries that funded all construction and operational costs. The mosque is made up of 3 floors. In addition to the mosque itself, there is a secondary building on the premises that houses a madrasa, an educational institution for the Muslim children to learn about Islamic culture and religion, the Islamic Cultural Research Center, and other Islamic-related organizations. The entrance of the mosque is decorated in blue mosaic tiles, and a sign that states in Arabic, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, or there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of God, a religious creed that is recited during prayer called the Shahada. The Seoul Central Mosque is open to both Korean Muslims and Muslim tourists, and prayers are conducted several times a day, allowing visiting Muslims to perform their 5 daily prayers. Sermons are conducted in English, Arabic, and Korean, and each praying session lasts about 10 till 15 minutes. In the center of the mosque is a green sign that states Allahu Akbar or God is great.
Kuching 93.7.
Welcome back to Man and Nature on IKIM FM. Dr. Adi, what are some realistic first steps that individuals, families and communities can take if they want to begin to start moving toward a lower carbon lifestyle? We have culture, we have religion, and Islam align with low carbon lifestyle, I suppose. So perhaps you can explain a little bit on what are some realistic first steps that we could do.
Okay, we can start with the low-hanging fruits. Okay, the first, we can do the diet adjustment, dietary adjustment. So we can start by preventing food waste. Okay, we start to choose what the food that we want to consume, okay, by opting for the local sustainable productions instead of we buy or we take imported one food. So why not we just focus on the local sustainable production? And even if one doesn't go fully vegetarian, so we can reduce the meat consumption significantly. We can help to lower the carbon footprints. So if we cannot go the fully vegetarian, so why not we try to reduce the meat consumptions? So we can try the first. I think we try to prevent the food waste. We choose the food that we want to consume. For example, if we go to the cafeteria, instead of you take the chicken with bones, so why not we can take the boneless chickens, or maybe we can try to take the foods, the quantity of the food based on what we need, instead of we took everything until our plate is full. So why not we try to take at the quantity of the minimum quantity, because sometimes when we go to the cafeteria, we eager to take everything to fill our plate. So why not we just try to reduce the quantity? Like I think everybody just know about the concept of suku-suku separuh, kan? We take a lot of food, a lot of vegetables and fruits, and then followed by the carbo. So we try to minimize, and the type of the food itself, the type of the lauk itself, where we try to something that can reduce the degenerations of the waste. Okay, because this is really important, because of for the second actions, waste management. Supposedly we do the segregations to reduce the carbon footprint, but since that I think everybody is quite it's not easy for everybody to do the segregation. So instead of, since that we are not easy to do the segregation, so why not for us to reduce the generation of the waste itself? Okay, so before the waste is produced. Okay, and then I think everybody know about the concept of 3R, and recycle, reduce, and then so on. So maybe we can try to practice this 3R in our life. And then the next one is about the energy efficiency. So we can switch to low energy appliances and adopt an energy saving culture. It's very easy. You just turning off unnecessary energy services. So nowadays, I'm usually take the example on our entertainment system at our home. We have televisions, we have a decoder for the satellite TV, we have modem for the internet, and we also have the Wi-Fi router, which is sometimes we just leave it switch on. So why not, before we go to the sleep, we just unplug everything before we go to sleep. So it will help to the vampire loads, which is the energy that usually consume to put all the appliances to the standby mode. So just switch off, unplug and switch off and unplug all the electrical appliances. And then I did mention we need to do the self audit. We need to look all the energy usage that we use in our daily life. It's not limit to the electricity as well as for the water consumptions. We need to do the audit. So from after we do the audit, we know where our baseline. So from that, we can proceed with our further actions. And then the last one is transportations. We try to utilize public transport, or we can walk when possible. But for me, this is it's a very long time punya issues lah. Even though we have a very good public transportation systems, but not everybody keen to use the public transportation because of the issue on the convenience lah. Because sometimes when we want to go to one places to other places, we are more convenient to drive by our own. And then similar with the walk when possible. This is about the issue lah. It's not an issue because of the climate. In Malaysia, we are too hot, so the people are reluctant to walk, even though it's really possible. The journey from point A to point B, basically it's not far away. But because of the climate, we are too hot in Malaysia, so the people tend to drive a vehicle. And then probably we can engage with the carpooling to reduce the per capita emissions from the one vehicle. But I believe talking about the transportations, public transports, walkings and carpooling is a very long issues lah. I think when I was a kid, they have a campaign about the carpooling. So it's already in the years early 2000. No, in the years 1990, we already talks about the carpooling. But nowadays, the people is more convenient to drive by their own car. So to recap, the questions, the low hanging fruit that I want to highlight is the four. They have four. The first is dietary adjustments, and then waste management by practice the 3R. I think it's not just limited to 3R. Nowadays they have 5R: reduce, recycle. They also include another two: repurpose and repair. So before we want to buy the new thing, why not we try to repair, or we can repurpose that particular thing to another functions. Okay, and then the last one is about the energy efficiency, and the last one is transportation.
Thank you, Dr. Adi. That is very practical. If you see small steps such as reducing waste, using energy more efficiently, choosing public transportation wherever possible, supporting local products, and being more mindful in consumption may seem simple, but they can become more powerful when they become part of a shared culture. Perhaps listeners could also start to consume more local food that over imported one, like what Dr. Adi have mentioned. Instead of having kale and artichoke, perhaps you should choose pucuk paku, daun salam, ulam raja, right? And also, you take on your consumption depends on your needs. If you didn't need so much, so you didn't have to take or prepare so much food, so that we can reduce the waste earlier before we have to segregate it later. Dr. Adi also mentioned about energy efficiency to stop the vampire load, which is the energy that is being utilized or keep on continuing being utilized when all our gadgets and appliances are on standby mode. So before you sleep or before you leave your house, perhaps you can unplug all the appliances. And for transportation, perhaps we can also choose if the mosque is just 300 and 500 meter away from our house, perhaps we should walk rather than to drive, right, Dr. Adi? And also, if you have to drive, perhaps at the end of the year or during the year, you may compensate by planting some trees. So that you can balance the deficit of the carbon that you have produced. So looking ahead, Dr. Adi, what gives you hope that Malaysia and the wider global community can move closer towards carbon neutrality? And what should we be careful about as we navigate this transition?
Okay, before I'm answering these questions, I remember one thing about lower carbon lifestyle. Basically, by do the housekeeping on our mailbox also can contribute lowering the carbon emissions. And then they have some recent study to say that by reducing using the AI also can help to reduce the carbon emissions, because of when we use AI, means that it will use you can give a burden to the server to do a lot of things, to thinking about what your question and so on. So indirectly it can help to it will contribute to use more energies, and then of course it will increase the carbon emissions, as well as the email. We need to do the housekeeping on our mailbox, because of by let all the emails in our mailbox, so it can give a burden to the server. So the server will use more energy. So when they use more energy, they can contribute more carbon emissions. So going back to your questions, so my hope that's basically is lie on our young generation, okay? Because based on our survey, over 5,000 students recently, to show that sustainability principles are effectively being embedded in our awareness. They are already aware about the sustainability. They are already aware about the carbon neutral lifestyle, and we need to realize that they are the steward of tomorrow. However, we must be careful when we do the action, when we do some policies. We need to ensure that we include everyone, okay? And then because we need to give more attention to all and address climate change anxiety, so that the people feel empowered to act rather than overwhelmed. We must ensure that emission reduction strategy do not adversely affect economic developments or leave behind those struggling with the basic need. So they have two keywords here. The first, we need to give attention to our young generations, because they are going to be our future leaders, and we need to include everyone. That's the thing lah, my hope for this.
Dr. Adi, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us, with me and the listeners today on Man and Nature. Dear listeners of Man and Nature, our discussion reminds us that a carbon neutral lifestyle is not merely about reducing emissions. It is also about rethinking how we live, consume, travel, educate and care for the world entrusted to us by Allah SWT. In navigating future challenges, knowledge helps us to understand the problem. Ethics help us ask what is right and fair. Human well-being reminds us that sustainability must serve people, the ummah and future generation. A carbon neutral future will not be built by technology only, but it requires wisdom, moderation, responsibility and cooperation. Beginning with ourselves, like what Dr. Adi have emphasized today, before extending it to the family, institution, industry and society as a whole. Thank you for listening to Man and Nature on IKIM FM. I am Ilham Zulkiflee Lubes. Until we meet again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.